Greetings, my sweet moon children. Ray here, and welcome to A Mug of Tea. Happy Pride Month, Happy Bangtan Month, Happy Stray Kids Comeback Month, and if it's your birthday month, happy birthday. On this episode, we're going to be reading Strawberries and Skylines, another Taegi fic because those are my favorite. And I think this month I probably will read all of my favorite Bangtan fics. This one actually I've never read before. Oh, my sister sent it, and I liked the summary. So we're both gonna be reading this together for the very first time. I hope you enjoy it. Make sure to read the tags. I'll submit the link. Make sure to read the tags. I'm gonna read the summary and then get right into it. Okay, here's Strawberries and Skylines by Simply Eva. Eva? Summary. Taehyung didn't expect himself to fall headfirst into yet another gay crisis over his young when preparing for the trip to DC. But when Yoongi had arrived to the airport looking like some sort of Disney prince crossed with a hippie sex god, well, there was no saving him then. Chapter 1. Taehyung let out a deep breath, eyes closed as he allowed his head to rest back against the cool leather of the lounge. The ambiance of the airport was something he was all too used to at this point. Even with the reduction in the amount of time they spent flying in the last couple of years, the VIP lounge at the Incheon airport was as familiar to them as their rehearsal studios back at the Hype building. It felt like they'd only been sat in the same seat weeks before, traveling to Las Vegas for their concerts and the Grammys. An announcement was paged softly over the speakers, a flight departure heading to Japan. The lounge was fairly quiet today. A few other guests sat around with coffee or tea, minding their own business as they waited for their flights. Taehyung could hear Jimin to one side of him, the side of his arm pressed against Taehyung's own as they'd squished together on a couch, possibly slightly too small for the pair of them. Jimin was quietly talking to Namjoon about their schedule for the next few days, tossing ideas up for what to do during their spare time. Hoseok and Jin were sat on another sofa. They crashed the moment the group had settled, though the lack of their voices told him they were probably each focused on their phones. Jungkook had left for the States early to film the music video for a collab he had coming up, and so that only left Yoongi. Yoongi, who, despite being sat the furthest away from Taehyung currently was all he could think about. Yoongi, who turned up today in jeans ripped just enough to show the soft, pale skin of his thighs. Yoongi, who decided to wear a flowy overshirt, delicate and soft, not hiding the curve of his small waist. Yoongi, who'd stepped out of the car with a new haircut and promptly made Taehyung forget how to breathe, who'd mindlessly tousled said hair, not a thought in the world about how its soft waves framed his face and made him look like some sort of Disney prince crossed with a hippie sex god. Yoongi, who had no idea that the image of him as he'd stepped out of the car was now superimposed on the back of Taehyung's eyelids and had sent him into the midst of a horny teenager level of gay panic. Oh my. It was taking every single ounce of his willpower not to march over to where his Hyung was most likely sat on a couch happily, mindlessly sipping at his iced coffee and scrolling his phone, and drag him over to the nearest secluded corner to absolutely ravish him. Oh my, consent? He was beautiful. He was too far away. They were very much in public. Tae, Jimin's voice broke through his flurry of Min Yoongi-flavored thoughts, cool fingers tapping gently on his forehead. You okay? Taehyung hummed quietly, refusing to open his eyes but giving a slight nod. If he had opened his eyes, he'd have to look at Yoongi. If he looked at Yoongi, he didn't know how he'd be able to continue holding back the urge to drag him into the closet toilets and lock the door. Oh, closest toilets and lock the door. He pressed Yoongi against the wall. A leg slipped in between those soft, pale thighs, pressing wet kisses along the soft skin of Yoongi's neck, perhaps bite at the spot just under his ear that had never failed to make him gasp. He'd run his hands through that glorious mane of hair, tugging just enough to... Oh, fuck. Taehyung opened one eye, peering up at Jimin, leaning over him with a concerned expression, apparently deliberately avoiding looking at the trigger for his fantasies wasn't even going to work. Clearing his throat, Taehyung forced a smile to his lips. I'm fine, I promise, he mumbled softly, not to disturb the others. Just tired. Jimin pouted slightly, a concern not leaving his eyes. Didn't sleep well? He asked, handing him the perfect excuse on a silver platter. Every single day, Taehyung was grateful Park Jimin was in his life. He shrugged but nodded. I guess. I don't blame you, Namjoon spoke up, leaning forwards to peer around Jimin from the single-seater next to theirs. Jimin nodded, glancing between the pair of them. I feel like I haven't slept properly in the last week since this was confirmed. He sighed, flopping back and relaxing into the lounge. I don't think I've been this nervous since the UN. I mean, I was nervous at the Grammys and with the concerts, but that's different. Namjoon finished the sentence, nodding in agreement. He let out a chuckle, shaking his head. You'd think I'd be somewhat used to this by now, but it never stops being strange. Taehyung couldn't help the upturn at his lips at that, watching Namjoon. He was always amazed by the other members, astonished at the remarkable men they'd grown into. We'll be fine, he huffed, throwing the pair a smug grin, boldly lying through his own nerves for the event. It's just another fancy building and press briefing. Maybe we'll even get a gift bag. He wiggled his eyes at that, succeeding in his mission to get a laugh out of the pair and watching as they relaxed a bit more into their chairs. We're seeing Chris the night before coming back, aren't we? Jin chimed in from the across space. Taehyung made the mistake of looking towards him as Namjoon answered the question. He found himself instead caught in the familiar gaze of the exact person he'd been trying to avoid looking at. Yoongi was watching him, an ever so slight purse to the lips, a purse that made said glossy pink lips look stupidly kissable. Even from across the room, Taehyung could read the soft concern in his eyes, a silent question in the tilt of his head. Are you okay? The tilt brought a few strands of hair away from where they'd been resting in the mane of hair, instead falling towards Yoongi's eyes. Taehyung felt his hand twitch as the urge to brush the hair away hit him like a freight train. Taehyung pushed the urge away, instead offering a tight smile and a nod towards his Hyung. I'm okay. The purse in Yoongi's lips grew, apparently unappeased by Taehyung's response. He looked away from him, instead peering around the lounge, as if searching for something. He seemed to spot what he was looking for, and nodding and standing quickly, pulling up his mask and moving off. Taehyung's attention was dragged away from his Hyung, despite his curiosity, as Jimin began poking lightly at his side. Have you got any plans for when we get there, Tae? Taehyung leaned back into his seat again, his head resting back while looking up at the ceiling, eyes mindlessly tracing over the patterns in the roof tiles. I heard there's a cool golf place near our hotel. I wouldn't mind going there, he answered, quickly thankful for the redirection of his thoughts away from his gay crisis. We could go and have a drink, just hang out? Jimin hummed, nodding. I wouldn't mind giving it a go. Young will come, I'm guessing? Of course. I'm not sure. I need to go over the script for the press briefing again. Come on, Namjoon. You've read the script at least 100 times already. The managers approved it, you approved it, we all approved it. It's fine, it's not going to change now. You don't need to memorize it more than you already have, Jin huffed. And Taehyung could practically hear how he'd folded his arms across his chest in protest. Hyung's right. You need to relax for at least one day, June. Hosuk piped up. If you don't want to come with us, go to a museum or gallery. That always chills you out. There is an exhibit at one of the galleries I was looking up yesterday. Taehyung smiled, rolling his head to the side to see Namjoon. You're quite predictable sometimes, Hyung. The others laughed quietly, Namjoon huffing, though he didn't disagree with Taehyung's words. You won't be able to predict this, Seokjin started, tapping at Taehyung's knee to get his attention. There's an indoor skydiving place I got recommended. Would you be interested in coming? Hobi, Juna, and Jimin all already said no, but I still want to go. Jungkook was keen, but he's not going to be back from LA in time. Indoor skydiving? Taehyung laughed in disbelief. Hyung, you want to go indoor skydiving? Jin shrugged, grinning. I figure I might never get the guts to do the real thing. An indoor version looks pretty fun, so why not? Taehyung grinned right back at him. Sounds fun to me. That's the one with the big tube, right? Nodding, Seokjin pulled out his phone, quickly finding a video and showing it to Tae. Jimin leaned forward over his shoulders, peering down at the phone himself, whistling quiet in acknowledgement as they watched the video. The person was thrown about the tube, a ridiculously red bodysuit and helmet on, almost looked like they were being flung by a slingshot. I haven't done anything like this since New Zealand. And I managed that fine in the end. Jin continued over the video, nudging Hoseok's knee with his own. This is nothing compared to that. Taehyung nodded, still grinning as Jin put his phone away when the video ended. I'm in. Should we go after we drop our stuff at the hotel? We have a full day to burn. Might as well use it. Then we can meet you at the golf place after, Jimin suggested, leaning against the sofa armrest. Golf place? The familiar gravely drawl of Yoongi's voice sounded from behind them, and the group looked to see the rapper with his hands full, a bottle of water and a bowl of something Tae couldn't see from where he was sat. Yoongi, you want to come indoor skydiving too? Jin offered. Through his grin and wiggling eyebrows gave way that he was already anticipating Yoongi's response. His eyes narrowed and Taehyung snickered as he pictured the grimace he wore behind his mask. I'd rather keep my lunch in my stomach, thanks. The group burst into laughter, Jimin folding over the arm of the chair while Seokjin slapped a hand against his knee. Taehyung chuckled, eyes still on Yoongi, who met his gaze. His Hyung's eyes softened and leaned forward, carefully placing the water bottle and a bowl of what turned out to be strawberries on the small coffee table to Taehyung's side. This fruit might help you feel a bit better. It's good to have something in your stomach, he said, propping a small fork into the bowl of strawberries, and you need to drink more water. Taehyung gaped up at him. Hyung. Yoongi continued, reaching over to rest a hand on Taehyung's forehead. You seem a little warm, but nothing major, he observed quietly. His hand softened, shifting to brush Taehyung's curls back from his face, his eyes meeting his again. A wave of his dark hair fell across his own eyes, but Yoongi didn't even notice. He tucked a straight curl behind Taehyung's ear. Eat up, Hyung. Eat up for Hyung. Taehyung blinked up at him before nodding quietly. Yoongi's eyes narrowed slightly in the way they do when he smiles, and he booped Taehyung's nose softly with his finger before returning to his seat and focusing down on his phone, pulling his mask down to sip at his iced coffee. Tae could feel the flush in his cheeks, and he just prayed that they weren't as red as they felt. He looked down at the bowl of strawberries, all beautifully red and ripe, and quickly popped one in his mouth so he could avoid the knowing smile he could feel burning into the side of his face. Thankfully, Seokjin, Namjoon, and Hoseok had distracted themselves by falling into a conversation, not noticing the interaction between Yoongi and Tae, and definitely not noticing the gay crisis that Taehyung was spiraling right back into. Jimin, unfortunately, had not. Cute, he whispered quietly, and Taehyung could hear the shit-eating grin on his lips. Shut up, Taehyung hissed back under his breath. If anyone knew about Taehyung's big fat crush on his Hyung, it was Jimin. Jimin, who had to listen to Tae whine for hours on end about how much he adored every little thing about their smallest Hyung. Jimin, who groaned and plugged his ears every time Taehyung boasted about the fantastic sex they had once in the blue moon. What? Jimin, who held and comforted Taehyung every time he had doubts about what his relationship with Yoongi was, the parameters they set around it years ago, and the difficult reality of how their job would affect any possibility of furthering their relationship in the future. Yoongi Hyung looks particularly good today. Jimin continued softly so Taehyung could only hear him, a smirk still in his voice. No wonder you're so flushed. Taehyung rolled around, sending a biting glare at his best friend. Shut up. Jimin grinned at him, battling against Taehyung's glare. For the moment before he conceded, he shrugged, turning to face forwards again, taking a sip from the glass of water at his side. Just saying what you're thinking, he said nonchalantly. Don't worry, my thoughts are saying it loud enough on your behalf. Taehyung huffed in dismay, his head flopping back against the cool of the leather of the seat again. Taehyung jolted, head lifting and eyes shooting to where Yoongi was sat, looking at his Hyung with furrow in his brow. Yoongi? Hyung? Yoongi's eyes went to the bowl of strawberries before drifting back to him. Are they sour? He was pouting. Taehyung heard a huff of poorly conceived laughter from Jimin next to him, something that earned the damsel a subtle elbow to the side. No, Hyung, he rushed out, shaking his head and picking the bowl up. They're perfect. I'm just tired. Jimin muttered something under his breath and sounded suspiciously like, I'm tired and gay. But Taehyung decided to ignore it for the sake of his sanity and spared Jimin's life, mostly. Jimin, didn't you say you wanted to have some food before we left? Taehyung suggested, turning to him with a burning look into his eyes. Jimin raised a brow at him, challenging. Did I? Because your stomach was unsettled, right? Taehyung added firmly. Probably best to eat before we get on the plane. You know what the turbulence does sometimes to your stomach. Jimin's eyes narrowed. He glanced toward Yoongi before bringing his eyes back to Taehyung. A second passed before his shoulders relaxed, a bright smile coming on his face. You're right, Tae. I'll go grab some food, he said easily. He turned his smile back to Yoongi. Taehyung come sit with you so you can keep an eye on him? Park Jimin. Of course, Yoongi nodded earnestly, patting the spot next to him on the sofa. He claimed every day Park Jimin took it upon himself to make Taehyung's life a living hell. Fantastic, Jimin sang, quickly jumping up with a particularly hard slap to Taemin's shoulder. Taehyung's shoulder. I'm sure Hyung will take good care of you, Tae. I'll be back in a bit. Perhaps he would post that embarrassing backstage photo he'd gotten of Jimin onto Instagram, just as a gift to ARMY. Taehyung. Yoongi patted the spot on the couch next to him, a small smile on his lips. After saying a quick prayer to whatever God was listening for strength, Tae moved closer to the other couch, taking his water and strawberries and settling next to Yoongi. The couch was a bit bigger than the one Taehyung and Jimin had occupied, but Tae still felt the soft press of Yoongi's thigh against his own. He breathed deeply, willing himself to relax, but instead got a nose full of the familiar, delightfully musky and spiced cologne Yoongi had found a particular attachment to. He kept his gaze down, piercing another strawberry with his fork and bringing it to his lips. However, though avoiding Yoongi's gaze, Taehyung's eyes instead fell to the rips in Yoongi's jeans, the exposed pale of his knees, the hint of thigh peeking out before disappearing under the denim. Taehyung shivered. He knew what the blue denim of Yoongi's jeans was hiding. He knew just how soft the delicate skin of Yoongi's inner thighs was, how strong those thighs were when wrapped around Tae's hips, pulling him close as, do you need to lie down? Taehyung choked on the strawberry in his mouth, because of course he did. Yoongi's gravelly voice, low and soft, close enough that he could feel a brush of breath against his ears, sent a jolt through him. A forced breath of air at the entirely wrong time. Tae hacked, pitching towards as the strawberry lodged itself in his throat, eyes watering, and face far too warm. Whether the flush was from the sudden asphyxiation or from Yoongi's hand rubbing firmly against his back, he couldn't even say. Shit, sorry, Yoongi grimaced, reaching to grab the water bottle and undoing the cap before handing it to him. Taehyung shook his head, great shuddering breaths ripping through him as he took the bottle. The cool water against his throat was a welcome relief. Yoongi's hand had drifted up, massaging at the nape of his throat with firm fingers, not at all assisting as Taehyung tried to get his breath back. Wiping his eyes dry with the sleeve of his sweater, flopping back into the couch and shutting his eyes, Taehyung took one last deep breath, willing his heart to slow down. Yoongi's hand left his nape as he fell back, instead moving to tentatively brush the hair from Taehyung's face. The cool tips of his fingers then drifted along his temple, touching barely there as they traced down his jawline. Taehyung was frozen under his touch, eyes closed and breath deliberately slow as he tried to control his racing heart. The pad of Yoongi's thumb pressed against the corner of his lip, wiping a bit of dampness from the water bottle. He was completely oblivious to how insane he was driving Tae, who eventually let out a sigh, unable to stop himself from relaxing into the touch. Yo, he muttered, eyes blinking open as he rolled his head to the side to peer at his elder. Yoongi's large hand instinctively reacted to his movement, cupping his cheek and stroking softly at the ridge of his cheekbone. Yoongi's eyes were gentle. That was one of the things Tae loved about his young. His eyes showed his emotions too easily. You just had to know what to look for. They could be soft and kind, dark and foreboding, analytical and contemplative. Right now they were gentle, thoughtful, something bubbling below the surface. Taehyung felt the smile come to his lips and he reached out, tapping a finger slightly against Yoongi's forehead. What's going on in that big brain of yours, Young? He took the hand from his cheek, holding it between his own. There was only so much they could get away with in public, even in the feigned privacy of the VIP airport lounge. Taehyung traced his thumb along the bumps of Yoongi's knuckles, eyes drifting over the waves of his dark hair, the slight pink tinge on the end of his nose, the gloss of his lips. Yoongi was truly beautiful, the type of beauty that should have poems and paintings created about it, songs of worship and adoration. His Young was silent. Instead of words, he simply squeezed Taehyung's hand, the corners of his lips quirking upwards. This was a smile that Taehyung was all too proud to say he was on the receiving end of. Taehyung returned his smile, before letting his head fall to Yoongi's shoulder, cuddling closer to his Young. There was only so much they could get away with in public, but occasionally Taehyung could really care less about what the world had to say. All that mattered was the soft skin of Yoongi's neck as he nestled closer, the familiar scent of warmth and comfort, and the veins and ridges of Yoongi's hand still held in his own. Thanks, Young. That was the end of this chapter. That was so cute. That was really so cute. Way more Taehyung's that I could read, but it was cute. I liked it. I think I might read the next one in my next upload. That'll probably come later on this week, but ouch. But yeah, I love that. I hope you did too. And if you did love it, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. I was gonna say something. Oh, the comments really help because I know not many people listen yet, but for the ones who do, if you do like it, please let me know. I'll put my Twitter. No, should I say Twitter? I think maybe there's like a comment section. I'll see if I can have a comment section. But if there is, like and comment, subscribe, share it if you like it, let people know, because I really did like this one, and I'm sorry for the super long hiatus, depression, but I'm back now. It's the summer. I hope everybody's doing well. I'll be uploading again later on this week, but that one was really cute. I do love a good Taegi fic. I love a little soft. I think the next one though might be a little spicy, so heads up. If you're uncomfortable with the spice, definitely don't listen. Because I'm going to read these with y'all. I'm not going to read them beforehand. I mean, I probably should do that for the safety of my audience. But, it's fun. Like, how gamers play games and they've never played the game before. And so they play with audience. That's what I want to do. Read it with you guys so we can both be shocked and soft and amazed and, oh my gosh. So yeah, anyways. That's it. I hope you have a good rest of your day or night. Make sure to stay hydrated and drink water. And until next time, bye.